There comes a point in every galactic conflict when arrogance becomes a weapon turned against its wielder. For the Vorn hegemony, that moment arrived when Admiral Dreskarl decided humanity would be easy to subjugate, fragile, predictable, and ripe for humiliation. As his second communications officer, I, Vex Lauren, had a front-row seat to what would become the most spectacular military blunder in 7,000 cycles of hegemony history. Dreskarl was in one of his clever moods, mandibles clicking with smug certainty as he outlined the plan. Strike the human colony on Proxima Centauri B, break their will with a swift surgical display of power, and force immediate vassalage. He dismissed everything I'd learned during 6 rotations of surveillance. Every signal, every entertainment broadcast, every archived scrap of their culture, as irrelevant. They emerged from their gravity well only a century ago. He scoffed. They've never faced a proper spacefaring civilization. They're insects compared to us. Around the bridge, the crew tittered obediently. Ziril, the tactical officer, gave me a warning glance, his central eye blinking the Vorn equivalent of rolling one's head in disbelief. The strike was brutal and efficient. Orbital defense platforms above New Anchorage were rendered impotent in seconds. The administrative center was scorched by a limited bombardment Dreskarl claimed would adjust their perspective on cooperation. 3,000 humans died in the first volley. We expected surrender, an immediate groveling capitulation. What came back instead was an audio-only transmission from Earth. No theatrics, no pleading, only a measured voice identifying itself as Admiral Kwan of the United Earth Defense. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately from Proxima Centauri. There will be no further communication until you do so. Then silence. The bridge laughed, Dreskarl's guffaw rolling through the command deck. You will throw rocks at us? He jeered. You have exactly 1 cycle to surrender, or we will reduce New Anchorage to molten slag. We waited for panic. We were certain the humans would crumble. I, however, felt the prickle of unease. During my research, I had encountered a human trait they called curiosity. Something that, when combined with desperation, could become dangerous. 40 units into the cycle, our sensors registered unusual activity. Humans were evacuating New Anchorage, atmospheric launches, crowds fleeing. Dreskarl waved it off. Let them flee. They will return when we own them properly. Then something odd appeared at the system's edge. 6 human vessels materialized without approach vector, hovering in formation. They weren't warships. 2 looked like cargo haulers, the rest like miners and waste disposal craft. The bridge erupted in contemptuous laughter. We believed they had sent merchants to negotiate. Tragvos, our sensor officer, flagged the silhouette readings. Civilian mining and waste disposal ships. We mocked them for sending garbage collectors against a hegemony dreadnought. But the formation was deliberate, and their hulls resisted our scans. Suddenly, hundreds of small containers launched toward us. Not missiles or beams, but compact pods screaming through space. Evasive orders came too late. The pods detonated before impact, releasing a cloud of microscopic particulate that slammed into our shields and external systems. Our shields flared and failed to stop the onslaught. It was like trying to catch a sandstorm with a net. The particles scoured radiator surfaces and sensors, abrading optics and jamming targeting. What is this? Dreskarl bellowed. They've thrown dust at a dreadnought? I reported what our instruments suggested. Powdered industrial diamond mixed with metal grit. Microscopic cutting material designed to sandblast our hull. Dreskarl called it primitive and ordered the offending vessels destroyed. But targeting became imprecise as the abrasive cloud blinded external arrays. The human ship scattered, and over open channels we managed to intercept. Spoke in jovial-coded banter. Phase 1 complete. The kitten is covered in glitter and very upset about it. Admiral Kwan's voice cut in again. Proceed to Phase 2. Let's see how they like their new jewelry. Then devices began to surface from the particulate cloud. Dozens of miniature mechanisms adhering to our hull like barnacles. Cameras captured them crawling across the plating before activating in unison. They didn't explode to breach the hull. They detonated in a pattern calibrated to create concentrated vibrational waves. The dreadnought trembled under the synchronized pulses. the ship shuddering as structural resonances were driven toward critical frequencies. Instruments screamed warnings about radiator efficiency and sensor degradation. The bridge was a riot of alarms and curses. We had been confident in the superiority of our shields and weaponry. In a matter of cycles, the humans had weaponized thrift, cargo haulers, mining skiffs, waste disposers, and turned the very grit of industry into a scalpel against our pride. We had underestimated a species that could turn appliances into armaments and jokes into strategy. What began as a display of arrogance rapidly narrowed into a survival problem. How do you fight an enemy that uses your assumptions about scale, about honor, about what constitutes a threat, against you? The dreadnought lurched again as the vibrations intensified, and for the first time since I took my post, the certainty on Dreskarl's face crumbled into something raw and animal. Fear. The vibrations hit deeper than anyone expected. Synchronized shock waves raced through the dreadnought's frame, shattering delicate subsystems and collapsing pockets of artificial gravity. Crew members were tossed like debris as gravity stutters failed, and emergency protocols struggled to compensate. In the dim, stuttering light, another human transmission crackled over open channels. Phase 2 complete. The kitten now has bells on its collar and is having an existential crisis. Dreskarl's face twisted with fury as he tried to regain his composure while toggling controls with trembling mandibles. "Destroy those ships now," he barked, floating awkwardly as the gravity regained a semblance of normalcy. The weapons officer's warning cut through the chaos. "Sir, they are maintaining formation close to our hull, using our own mass as a shield. We cannot engage without risking catastrophic friendly damage." Then, the largest of the human vessels, a ragged, waste disposal ship by all our scans, maneuvered directly above the command deck and unfolded an enormous mechanical arm. The arm slammed against our outer plating with a sound like a metal bell striking stone. "They've attached something," Tragvoss reported. "It's drilling." They had not come with plasma lances or quantum torpedoes. They had come with industrial ingenuity, a mining drill burrowing toward our command section. Our shields, engineered to shrug off energy impacts and radiative overloads, were never designed to stop a massive physical intrusion that had already bypassed them. A dry human voice reported almost matter-of-factly, "Phase 3 initiated. The kitten is getting its temperature taken the traditional way." I knew the reference. Human veterinary metaphors are annoyingly precise, but explaining it to an admiral on the edge of fury seemed unwise. Dreskarl ordered everything rerouted to the structural integrity field and called for all interceptors to launch. "Atomize those vessels," he demanded. Our interceptors cleared the bays and encountered a new hazard, a dense field of cultrops, thousands of simple metal spikes floating in carefully calculated arrays. Interceptor thrusters, fine and delicate by design, were ripped and punctured by the traps. 3 fighters were disabled within minutes. "Over the comms," a human voice reported dryly. "Phase 4 complete. The dog park is full of landmines." Meanwhile, the drill continued. Alarms screamed as the device breached successive hull layers. "Perhaps we should withdraw and reassess," I suggested, watching systems fail one by one. "Their tactics are unorthodox, but effective." Dreskarl's throat sac inflated with incandescent rage. "Never," he hissed. "Activate the secondary array. Target their homeworld. Boil Earth's oceans. Let them see what cleverness costs them." That order was our undoing. As the dreadnought's long-range weapon began to spool its charge, the human vessels broke formation and accelerated away in an apparently panicked retreat. Dreskarl crowed at what he perceived as victory, but they were moving with unnerving precision. As they fled, tethers of superconducting wire streamed behind them and snapped taut, forming a near-perfect conductive mesh around our ship. The moment the planet cracker beam fired, the mesh lit like a woven lightning field. It didn't attempt to contain the energy so much as redirect it. Power cascaded through the wires into feedback channels, overloading conduits and detonating circuit breakers. "Phase 5 active," the intercepted human transmission announced calmly. The cat thought the cucumber was a snake. One by one, our major systems failed. Reactors stumbled into emergency shutdown. Weapons, shields, propulsion, Everything went dark or lurched into limp, useless safety modes. Engineering reported in a voice so thin with panic I barely recognized it. Main reactor in emergency shutdown. Weapons offline. Shields offline. Propulsion offline. Admiral Drescarl's bioluminescent patches flared with a terrible, furious disbelief. "This is impossible," he spat. "They cannot have bested a hegemony dreadnought with mining tools and trash." Then our hull breach sensors lit in a frenzy. The drill had not been driven off. It had succeeded. The human device had chewed through outer plating and come to rest within our command ring. "Sir," Cyril whispered, voice barely audible over the static, "we are being boarded." Internal sensors showed dozens of figures in environmental suits flooding through the rupture like a tide. They moved with an unsettling calm and extraordinary speed, deploying sprays and agents that disabled our crew before most could reach for weapons. It was surgical, practiced, and merciless, not in intent but in efficiency. A final transmission, calm and clipped, filled the command deck. Final phase initiated. "The Spider is being relocated with glass and paper." Repeat. Catch and release procedure in effect. Only then did the scale of the humans' aim become clear. They had not come to annihilate, we had the firepower for that, but to capture. Their tactics were designed to disable and detain, to minimize casualties while maximizing strategic gain. "They're showing restraint," I said, voice steadying despite the alarms. "Proportional response is their doctrine. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they chose to take us alive." Drescarl's mandibles clicked faster now, a staccato of panic rather than pride. "Surrender," I said bluntly. "Immediate surrender. We are outmatched by their improvisation," he snarled, incredulous, until the certainty left him completely. As internal lights blinked and emergency protocols hiccuped, 3 humans walked through the command doors. Their visors reflected the ruined command deck in fractured images. 2 carried crude projectile weapons. The third, taller, composed, held only a small device that translated her words into our tongue. "I am Captain Talia Rivera of United Earth," she announced. Her voice through the translator was calm, authoritative. "Your vessel is now under United Earth control. Cooperate and your crew will not be harmed." What followed was a silence so complete it felt like a physical pressure. The conqueror of 7 solar systems, Supreme Commander Drescarl of the Third Fleet, terror of the Galactic Rim, did the only thing left that any rational creature could do. He fainted. Captain Rivera turned her head, visor catching the emergency lights, and looked at me, the communications officer who had watched their folly take shape and now, perhaps, its aftershocks. The human captain's mirrored visor caught the emergency lights as she studied me. "You are the one who tried to warn him, aren't you? We monitored your bridge transmissions." I straightened my posture, folding my secondary limbs neatly against my frame. "Vex Lauren, Second Communications Officer." "At your service, Captain." She inclined her head. "Tell me, Vex Lauren, did your leaders truly believe humanity would be an easy conquest?" "A regrettable miscalculation," I admitted. "One I tried to prevent. And what did you see in us that they ignored?" She pressed, I considered carefully. "That your species was forged on a death world. That by all logic you should not have survived, and yet you thrived. That your own history shows endless cycles of war, against yourselves, refining tactics over millennia. That you are the only known civilization to endure an extinction-level event, then deliberately rebuild, as though daring the universe to try again. And most importantly, yes, that we had only witnessed you playing nice. We never asked what would happen if someone forced you to fight seriously." Her silence lingered before she gave a slow, deliberate nod. "A fair assessment." She gestured to her team. "Secure the bridge. Inform Admiral Kwan that the classroom demonstration is complete." The word demonstration struck me harder than any weapon. In that moment I realized with dawning horror, the destruction of our dreadnought had not been a desperate battle. It was a lesson. Humanity had staged this as an object example, and the true lesson was only beginning. 3 standard cycles later, I occupied an unexpected role, liaison between the hegemony prisoners and our human captors. Captain Rivera had recognized my understanding of human behavior as useful. Admiral Drescarl, stripped of authority and ceremonial armor alike, bulked in comfortable confinement, a commander no longer. We had not been dragged to a prison camp or slave world, as our propaganda had long claimed was the fate of captives. Instead, the humans brought us to an immense orbital station circling Jupiter. They called it Diplomatic Reception Center 7. I overheard guards jokingly refer to it as Timeout Corner. When I entered the conference chamber for my daily briefing, Rivera greeted me. "Officer Vex Lauren, how are your people adjusting today?" "As well as can be expected," I replied, lowering myself into a specially designed seat, though Chief Engineer Gray continues to demand answers about what became of our dreadnought. Her expression shifted into that uncanny human gesture. A smile. The first time I had seen it, I mistook it for a threat display. Now I understood its nuance. "He'll have his answers soon enough," she said, tapping a datapad. "That's actually why I summoned you. Admiral Kwan has authorized a special broadcast. Your leadership will be permitted to observe tomorrow's defense exercises in Sol System." I released an involuntary burst of pheromones at the shock. That level of transparency isn't unusual. The hegemony would never allow outsiders, least of all prisoners, to witness military maneuvers. "We are not the hegemony," she replied simply, "and this isn't classified. It's an annual demonstration for our own civilian population. You display your weapons openly to civilians?" "Of course. Public trust requires transparency. Taxpayers expect to see what their credits build." She tilted her head, studying my reaction. "I take it this is a foreign concept to you?" "In the hegemony, military matters are state secrets. Civilians are told nothing beyond what keeps them obedient." Rivera nodded. "Cultural differences. Speaking of which, your sovereign assembly has agreed to preliminary peace talks." Relief warred with suspicion inside me. The assembly negotiating with humans? They would only do so under immense pressure. "That is highly unusual," I admitted. "They rarely engage diplomatically with those they deem hostile." "They had little choice after Bellatrix," she said. My primary heart skipped a beat. "Bellatrix? What happened?" She studied me for a moment, then slid her datapad across the table. "This may be difficult to watch." The display revealed orbital footage of Bellatrix 66, once the site of our largest shipyard beyond the homeworld. Dozens of dreadnought frames had hung there, a testament to our industrial might. Now there was only wreckage, floating shards of platforms, stations, and defense arrays. "How?" My voice modulator cracked. "We stationed 2 battle groups there." "You still have them?" Rivera said evenly. "Not one of your warships was harmed." "I don't understand. We didn't attack your fleets. We didn't need to." She tapped the screen again, shifting the image to Bellatrix Phi's moon. A massive crater scarred its surface. "Do you recognize this?" "Yes," I whispered. "Our primary antimatter production facility. You assume bombardment," she said. But there was none. One ship, one weapon, one demonstration. The recording showed a small human vessel, scarcely larger than a courier, approach the moon. It deployed a single payload before vanishing into faster-than-light transit. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the moon flared with a detonation so intense the sensors nearly blinded. When the glare subsided, a quarter of the celestial body was simply gone. The moon's surface was not shattered, not fractured, simply gone. A quarter of its mass erased with surgical precision, leaving behind a vast concave void as smooth as glass. I struggled to find words. What kind of weapon could possibly do this? My voice was little more than static distortion. Captain Rivera answered without hesitation. "We call it a dimensional anchor charge. It opens a temporary bridge between our universe and a neighboring dimension, where the physical constants differ. The energy imbalance does the rest." The explanation sent a cold tremor through my core. "And this technology? It was created for defense?" Rivera shook her head. "Not at all. It was an accident, a byproduct of research into renewable energy. One of our physicists was searching for alternate energy sources and stumbled onto the principle, much the way humanity first discovered nuclear fission." The casualness of her words left me hollow. They had discovered civilization-ending weaponry as a side effect of energy research. I steadied myself before asking, "Then why show me this? Is this meant as a warning?" She looked genuinely puzzled. "Warning? No. Context. You've helped us understand your culture. It's only fair we help you understand ours." She leaned forward, her expression hardening. "Your admiral attacked a civilian colony, killing 3,000 innocents. The hegemony assumed we would either submit or escalate to full war. Instead, we captured a single vessel with minimal casualties and demonstrated a single weapon on an uninhabited moon." I felt my secondary heart falter. "To show restraint," I whispered. "Exactly." Her eyes never wavered. "We could have destroyed your fleet. We didn't. We could have erased your homeworld. We didn't. We could have executed your admiral and crew. We didn't. What you have seen is not humanity at its most ruthless. It is humanity at its most restrained." The next day, all 342 Vaughn prisoners were assembled in what the humans called a theater. At the front sat Admiral Dress-Karl, stripped of his authority, but still attempting the rigid posture of command. The display activated, revealing hundreds of human vessels gathered in formation around the gas giant Neptune. They were not warships in the sense we understood them. They were a strange mixture. Converted freighters bristling with weapons, civilian haulers armored with military-grade shields, dedicated warships that looked more like mobile artillery platforms than ships of the line. There was no elegance, no symmetry, only brutal efficiency. Then Admiral Quan appeared on the display, addressing not us but the human civilians who were apparently the true audience. "Citizens of Earth and her colonies," she began. "Today marks the 15th annual transparency demonstration of the United Earth Defense Force. As always, only non-classified systems and capabilities will be shown, those already known to the public." My translator nearly faltered. These were their non-classified systems? What followed defied belief. Human ships weaving gravity lenses that bent light around entire flotillas, rendering them invisible. Swarms of drones that absorbed unimaginable amounts of energy fire to shield their larger craft. Missiles that released self-replicating nanomachines, disassembling targets atom by atom. And then Project Lazarus. A cruiser deliberately took a direct hit, half its structure torn away in a flash. By any measure, the ship should have been destroyed. Yet before our eyes, the shredded metal began to reform. Fabrication systems rebuilt the hull in real time, restoring the vessel as though it were a living organism. "Self-healing ships," one of my comrades whispered in disbelief. "Not repair systems, regeneration." When the demonstration ended, silence gripped the hall. None of us spoke. None dared. The doors opened, and Captain Rivera entered alongside an older human woman with silver hair and the insignia of high command. Rivera gestured toward her. "Allow me to introduce Admiral Quan." I recognized the voice instantly. The same voice that had ordered our capture at Proxima Centauri. She looked ordinary. No towering figure, no gleaming augmentations, just an aging human with sharp, unyielding eyes. "Admiral Dress-Karl," she said evenly, acknowledging our disgraced commander. I trust the demonstration was informative. Dress-Karl's mandibles clicked rapidly, a clear sign of agitation. If this was meant to intimidate us into surrender, intimidation? Admiral Quan's brow arched. "Admiral, what you just saw was our standard public demonstration. The technology displayed is at least 15 years obsolete. We show it to our school children." A ripple of pheromonal distress swept through our ranks. I could feel my own system struggling to process her words. "Impossible," Karl snapped. "No species advances military technology at that rate." Quan's expression hardened. "We don't develop it for war. Most of what you saw began as civilian innovation. The self-healing ships? Derived from medical regeneration research. The gravity lenses? Originally designed for astronomy. The nanomachines? Mining equipment." She stepped closer, her voice dropping into something cold and final. "We are not building weapons for conquest. We are adapting tools for survival. We are not naturally warlike, Admiral," Quan said evenly. "We are naturally curious, naturally inventive, naturally adaptive. When your dreadnought fell, we didn't use mining equipment as weapons because we lacked better options. We did it to make a point. Even our simplest tools become dangerous in the hands of a species forged by Earth itself." Dress-Karl vibrated with fury. "The hegemony will never bow to threats. We have conquered dozens of systems over thousands of cycles. Quan's expression remained calm. You have conquered civilizations bound to chemical rockets. You have crushed worlds that never advanced beyond primitive industry. You enslaved species that lived on gentle garden worlds with stable climates. That doesn't make you mighty, Admiral. It makes you a bully. Her gaze sharpened. And now you've picked a fight with the wrong playground. Dresskarl flared his mandibles. We evolved under high gravity. Our exoskeletons can withstand pressures that would crush you humans. Congratulations, Quan said dryly. We evolved on a world where everything tries to kill you. Our air is rich enough in oxygen to turn forests into planetary infernos. Our weather spawns tornadoes that fling debris faster than sound. Our shifting tectonic plates constantly rewrite the map of entire continents. Our largest predators could bite through your armor as if it were sugar, and our smallest microbes can liquefy you from within. She gestured to the still active displays showing the demonstration's aftermath. We didn't become dangerous because we wanted to. We became dangerous because survival demanded it. Every piece of technology you saw today exists because at some point, humanity had no other choice. It was then I noticed what I had missed before. The human ships weren't merely displaying their power. They were forming a defensive perimeter around Neptune. Admiral, I asked, summoning my courage, why conduct this demonstration here of all places? Quan's eyes softened slightly as she turned toward me. Observant Officer Vex Loran, you've proven insightful. She pointed to the screen. We are protecting our newest settlement. 20,000 colonists are building a floating city in Neptune's upper atmosphere, rich in helium-3 and other resources. We are colonizing gas giants. Zarel, seated nearby, released a burst of uncontrolled pheromones. That's technologically impossible. Challenging, Quan corrected. But the view is worth it. The realization struck me like a plasma strike. Humanity wasn't just defending its borders. They were expanding into environments no other species even considered. Gas giants, asteroid belts, planets buried in toxins and radiation, places the hegemony dismissed as worthless because we could never endure them. The peace conference, I murmured, understanding dawning. Your terms will include full access to your colonization technology. Quan's lips curved into that uncanny human gesture, the smile. Only this time it carried something predatory. Very perceptive, yes, that is our price for peace. We don't want your lush worlds. We want the ones you cannot touch. The storms of gas giants, methane seas, high radiation moons. The places your biology forbids you. Dresskarl stiffened as the truth finally pierced him. You are not conquering us. You are expanding around us, precisely. Quan's eyes were cold. The galaxy is vast. Most of it is dismissed as uninhabitable. Humans don't accept that word. She turned to the assembled Vaughn. You will return home unharmed after the peace conference. You will tell your sovereign assembly what you witnessed, that humanity is both restraint and potential, that we can be predators or partners. Which role we play depends on your choices. The weight of her words settled like gravity on the chamber. The hegemony had encountered many species in its history, but never one that looked upon the deadliest environments in existence and said, "What a lovely place to live." 3 days later, as preparations for our return began, Captain Rivera sought me out privately. "Officer Vex Loran," she said, "you've been offered a choice. You may return with your people, or you may remain as an official liaison. Your insights into our psychology have proven valuable, and we believe they will continue to be. A choice. Return to the hegemony, where I would almost certainly be blamed for our humiliation, or remain with these impossible humans, who turned mining tools into weapons and gas giants into homes. Would I be permitted to observe more of your culture, to study how you thrive in environments others consider unlivable? That would be your job," Rivera confirmed. "Complete access, minimal restrictions, and when the Sovereign Assembly inevitably provokes you again," I asked carefully. Her expression darkened, becoming that neutral mask humans wore when speaking of grim things. "Then you will witness what happens when humanity stops using civilian tools. When we stop playing nice. When we unleash the weapons we designed for war." She extended her hand, a human gesture of agreement I had studied extensively. Trust has to begin somewhere. I extended my manipulator and completed the gesture. Captain Rivera, I believe I've just witnessed the beginning of a galactic transformation. The hegemony always believed strength came from surviving harsh worlds. We were half right. True strength isn't just surviving an environment. It's mastering it, reshaping it, making it serve you. That is what makes your species terrifying. Not your weapons, not your ships, not your tactics. Your refusal to accept limits, Rivera nodded. A fair assessment. So will you stay? I thought of Admiral Drescarl, still drowning in denial. I thought of the Sovereign Assembly, who would dismiss all warnings until it was too late. And I thought of humanity, these strange Deathworlders who looked at the impossible and saw opportunity. Yes, I decided, I will stay, to document what happens when a Deathworld species decides every world should feel like home. Our agreement had barely been sealed when Rivera's communicator chimed. She listened in silence, her expression shifting to the cold, careful mask I recognized. Your timing is perfect, she said at last. A hegemony battle group has just entered the Epsilon Indy system, apparently unaware of the peace talks. I felt my core go cold. But that's where you're building the methane sea colony. 3,000 civilians. Minimal defenses, Rivera confirmed. Her gaze locked with mine, and there was no mistaking the promise there. Your first duty as liaison will be to witness what happens when humans defend their own. You'll use the dimensional anchor charges? I asked, dreading her reply. No, Rivera said. Her voice had changed, carrying something primal, something ancient that echoed from humanity's long war with nature itself. The anchors were to get your leader's attention now. They'll see what happens when we truly try. As alarms blared, and human personnel moved with flawless discipline to their battle stations, I understood the truth with chilling clarity. The hegemony had made a fatal mistake, because you do not measure a predator by what it shows you. You measure it by what it keeps hidden. And humanity, I realized at last, had been hiding something vast, something terrible, something inevitable.